What is up, and welcome to SGPN's The Daily Dog. I'm your host, Britton Hess. I'm here with my favorite Underdog Fantasy Pick'em plays for Wednesday, October 9th, 2024. If you're new to Underdog Fantasy, sign up with promo code DailyDog. That's DAILYDOG at UnderdogFantasy.com or on the Underdog Fantasy app. Again, that's just one word, Daily Dog, 50% deposit match bonus, up to $1,000. So if you put $100 on the app, you get 50 for free. If you put $1,000, $500 for free. If you put $2,000 on there, you get $1,000 for free to play with. Great way to up your expected value and turn a profit on the Pick'em site, the best Pick'em app there is out there for fantasy sports. Underdog. All right, let's get going on the slips for today. We're going to start out with another Thursday night football slip. Try to get ahead of the market, try to get ahead of the moves before Thursday. Just kind of a little rule of thumb is to take some hires early in the week, and then on the day of, start looking at the unders. So, or the lowers, not the unders, the lowers on our picks. So today, we're back at it with some hires. Geno Smith, higher than 12.5 rushing yards. 3 out of 5 games this year, he's gone over 12.5 rushing yards. It's not like he's not Mike Vick back there. He's not Josh Allen back there. He's not, an elite scrambler, but when he does take off, he surprises people. And just due to the nature of their receiving core with Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, and Jackson Smith and Jigba, defenses have to pay attention to those receivers. They can't really have a bunch of guys in the box because they've got enough receiving options to take the top off. And Smith is fast enough to hit a 15, 20-yard run if the defense is caught with their back to him. If they're in like some sort of dime package where there's only like 1 or 2 linebackers out there, and then the secondaries all got their back turned towards him. Geno just needs to take off once and he can knock this thing out. Like I said, he's done it plenty of times this year. He's done it plenty of times in his career. He's definitely capable. And again, this is a division game. The 49ers are visiting Seattle. So it's not like he's going to, be reducing the intensity. It's going to be a highly contested game, I believe. I think that, again, in a divisional spot like this, this is the time where you do lower your shoulder as a quarterback and do take some risks, because the Niners, I don't know if you noticed, the Niners are not off to a great start this year. The Seahawks can really, really damage the long-term prospects for this 49ers team if they do make some moves here and get this win. Part of that is going to be taking every opportunity available to you. And part of taking every opportunity available to you is going to be Geno Smith rushing. And 12.5 rush yards is just way too low. Like I said, he can do this on one run. But if he scrambles a couple times, literally, if he scrambles 2 or 3 times in this game, he's going over 12.5, 10 out of 10 times. He's just that fast. So, and he's got that good of an eye. He doesn't really do it when he doesn't really do it when it's not there. He's not a guy who's looking to scramble, but if it's available, he takes it, and that's why he can get these chunk plays. And also shout out to, I don't know if you saw his scramble last week when Jackson Smith and Jigba, was getting covered by 2 guys, and Geno took off, and both the defenders had their backs to Geno. And Jackson Smith and Jigba was looking back, and he saw Geno took off, so he started acting like he was getting the ball, and both those guys pursued him. And Geno was able to pick up even more yards because both those defenders had no idea that the play had turned from a pass to a run. Obviously, you can't necessarily expect that to happen again and again, but I do like the heads-up play by JSN, allowing Geno to rush for even more yards last week, and hopefully he can do it again this Thursday night. All right. Thursday night game, I'm going to be targeting a kicker. I don't know if you saw the kicker for the Niners. Jake Moody got hurt. He got involved in a little dust-up in the game against the Cardinals last week. So that means there is a different kicker I got my eye on. His name's Jason Myers. He's the kicker for the Seahawks. He's a very, very good kicker. And given the Seahawks are the underdog in this game, Jason Myers' kicking number is just 6.5 fantasy points. 6.5 kicking points is not even fantasy. It's just straight up points from field goals and extra points. 6.5, way too low. I mean, obviously he's a guy who can get 3 field goals, no problem. But I honestly, 2 field goals and an extra point, boom, we're there. This is way too low. Jason Myers is getting 6.5 kicking points in this game. The only way it doesn't happen is if for some reason the Niners defense can't get any stops, which I think they'll get at least some in this game. So if they can't get any stops, then yeah, maybe it gets 4 kicking points because it's like 28-14. 28-14 Seahawks, but again, I really, really do not think that's happening. So give me Jason Myers higher than 6.5 kicking points. Last one. This number just seems a little bit low to me for a Thursday night divisional game against a secondary that I don't think is all that good. I mean, obviously, most of the damage the Giants did last week versus the Seahawks was running, but I don't necessarily think, outside of Tariq Woolen, who's been banged up a little bit this year, I don't really fear too many guys in the secondary for the Seahawks team. So I'm taking Brock Purdy higher than 253.5 passing yards. he's done this, plenty of times this year. He's done it plenty of times in his career, and just this era without having Christian McCaffrey to carry the load on the ground, and then also just some of the issues Jordan Mason's had with fumbling. I don't really know how much running they're going to run the ball. I'm not saying they're not going to run the ball, but I don't know if it's going to be like a 50-50 split, if it's going to be 40-60 running to passing. I think there's a good chance that there's some big plays through the air for the 49ers here. And I think that this game's actually pretty much back and forth, and I think that there could be some points where the Seahawks do have the lead, which would indicate the 49ers are probably going to have to pass. If they're going to have to pass, got guys like Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel and Juwan Jennings and George Kittle, if he plays in this game, are going to contribute to Brock Purdy having higher than 253.5 passing yards in this game. So those three plays together: Geno Smith higher than 12.5 rushing yards, Jason Myers higher than 6.5 kicking points, and Brock Purdy higher than 253.5 passing yards is a flat 6x multiplier. Good value. Get that one in now. And I gave out my first Thursday Night Football slip of the week yesterday, and honestly, a rarity is that I didn't get CLV on it. It's actually moved a little bit against me, which is kind of weird because generally speaking, when I release these early, we get good value on it. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to hit, but it's good to have that extra value. So, maybe it moving against me is a good sign as far as this one coming home on Thursday night. This was Deebo Samuel to have higher than 0.5 rushing plus receiving touchdowns, Kenneth Walker to have higher than 0.5 rushing plus receiving touchdowns, and Jackson Smith and Jigba higher than 49.5 receiving yards. JSN is now 47.5 receiving yards, so you get 2 yards less there. Obviously, it's not the biggest thing in the world in the world of wide receiver yards. 2 yards usually isn't going to make or break you. I mean, you'd be surprised though; it does come into play more than maybe you would think, but it's not generally going to be that. It can come into play more than you think, but that's like 1 in 100 games. That's not every other game or anything like that. But the real disappointment is that this was a 6.84x multiplier when I gave it out yesterday, and now it's 7.25x. So I definitely recommend hopping on there still if you have not already done so. Samuel, I think that Deebo is going to have actually chances to run the ball a little bit more here, especially around the goal line, because Mason has had those fumble issues. And Deebo and Christian McCaffrey are like the yin and the yang, the wide receiver that can play running back, the running back that can play wide receiver. Obviously, no McCaffrey still, so Deebo's got to do a little bit more. And I think that they got to use him. They can't be afraid of letting him get hurt in the running game because this season has started terribly for the most part for the 49ers. So, give me Deebo Samuel a touchdown here. Kenneth Walker, just an explosive dude, a guy who's important in the red zone, a guy who's important from between the 20s. And a guy that you get vulture protection on Underdog. If you don't know what that is, that means if your guy, the starting running back, designated running back for that team, gets a touchdown vultured from him, which means somebody else on his team runs one in. That's not the quarterback, so this would probably be Zach Charbonnet, honestly. If Zach Charbonnet runs one in from inside the 10 on a drive where Kenneth Walker touched the ball, this slip would be returned to you if the other two legs hit. And again, so one, Kenneth Walker's a good player, and two, vulture protection. I love it. And then Jackson Smith and Jigba higher than 49.5 receiving yards. JSN is let's just say that he's a guy that's a really heady player, and I just think that the secondary of the 49ers can only kind of lock out so many guys, and I think they're going to take out Lockett and Metcalf, and I think if Smith and Jigba is going to have some room working out of the slot here. So give me JSN higher than 49.5 receiving yards, and now you can get it at 47.5. So lock that one in. All right. Finally, let's get to our slip for today. We're going to go with college football game and MLB playoffs. Trey Stewart, running back for Jacksonville State, higher than 96.5 rush yards. This dude is on fire lately. He's coming into his own after the schedule got a little bit easier for Jacksonville State. Their rushing game has taken off. I mean, Kennesaw State absolutely stinks, and there were big plays left and right last week. So you can't necessarily guarantee that's going to happen this week against New Mexico, but yeah, actually you can, because New Mexico is terrible. And I should say, New Mexico is terrible, and he's just a very explosive player, at least at this level. And it's New Mexico State, not New Mexico. Sorry, I keep saying New Mexico. New Mexico State allowed 332 yards rushing to New Mexico last week, and New Mexico was winless before that game. That's the point I was trying to get to. And then I'm also going to take the quarterback for Jacksonville State, Tyler Huff, higher than 78.5 rushing yards. Again, he's been taken off, and he's been running a ton lately. This team stinks at passing. It's really kind of bad. I mean, they get big plays here and there because they're playing against terrible teams like Kennesaw, but They want to run it. I honestly think 100 yards for both the running back and the quarterback for Jacksonville State is definitely in the cards here. And then last one, we're going ALDS, Clark Schmidt plus Seth Lugo, lower than 0.5 first inning runs allowed. This series has been sleepy in the first inning all along. It's going to be sleepy again here. So give me Schmidt and Lugo lower than 0.5 first inning runs allowed. That is all I got for you today. Let's make some money.